what's happening is that people are self-diagnosing.
Okay.
Right? So they're like, oh, I have anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know you have anxiety?
Yeah.
You know, and you may experience some of the symptoms. You may feel like, oh, my heart rate is increasing, or I have the feelings in my stomach, or I'm getting a headache, and noticing different signs in your body, etc. But if you didn't go and seek out the consultation and treatment to see, you know, what you're actually struggling with, that's where the misconception comes in.
Yeah.
Because now you're using these terms and you're not using them properly, and you don't really even know.
Yeah.
Being strong is about, one, my mental, right? My brain.
Yeah.
Having a healthy brain. I feel like that's the most powerful tool that we have as human beings. You know, if we lose our mind, everything else is clipped. Everything. Like, we have nothing else if we lose our mind.
Hi, listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Welcome back to our podcast, How the F Is This a Podcast? As two amazing, fantastic, incredible, credible, extraordinary, beautiful mental health professionals, we would be doing you all a disservice if we did not have an episode
on mental health well-being.
It's Mental Health Awareness Month, so we should be doing that. So this is what we're doing.
Yep.
We're talking about mental health. So we are going to just have a conversation about mental health awareness. And before we get started, just giving you a little bit of background about me. If you're thinking, who the F is this chick talking to us about mental health? I have been a mental health first aid instructor for the past 8 years, but have been in the mental health space for over a decade. I do trainings across the country in communities, in corporations, teaching executives about mental health awareness, how to recognize signs and symptoms, and then how to respond to that. I also do train the trainer work where I train people within their communities who want to be instructors and lead a mentor program to help them be successful in their communities.
Awesome. You're doing a great job out here.
I try.
And I'm also a mental health first aider.
You are
I didn't teach no class yet.
Not one.
I didn't teach one class.
But you did do a good job when you took the training.
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
Well, you're a bright man, so yeah. I expected nothing less.
Of course. Well, y'all know who I am. But I'll go ahead and reintroduce myself.
They may not
know. I'm Dr. Gordon Marcel. I am a licensed professional counselor, as well as a licensed substance abuse treatment practitioner. And I specialize in substance use as well as trauma-informed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to get into just mental health. So this episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to go back and forth asking each other questions. It's going to be like a Q&A.
Yeah.
Right?
I love those.
Woo.
Ooh.
Excited. No, so yeah, we'll go ahead. You want to start? You want me to start?
Y'all start. So let's just get it over with. No, I'm joking. What does mental health mean to you?
Mental health to me is really about the emotional, physical, psychological well-being of one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. I'll say the same thing.
Yeah. Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Self-care.
Yeah.
All of that. Like, mental health is literally life. Literally. It's life.
Yeah. And it's a spectrum. You know, before I became more educated on what mental health was, I thought when people said mental health, it meant one thing. And typically it meant poor mental health, right? And so I know that mental health is a spectrum. We go from like well to recovery. And in that, you can have poor mental health or you can have healthy mental health. It's just a range of it. But it is that combination of things. Or when I think about mental well-being, I think about that combination of things.
Right.
Yeah.
When did you first learn about mental health? Like, when did it become prevalent?
So back in 2015, I started a nonprofit organization in New York. It was called Flawed. And the idea was that it was like Flawed, fearlessly living as women, exceptionally determined.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, right? And so with that organization, it was all about self-acceptance. It was all about women empowerment. And I used to do these events out in New York.
Yeah.
And we would have like these pop-up wisdom and wines, we would call them, where we would have different therapists from around the city come and lead us groups of women in conversation. It was dope as F. And so, or AF, not as Okay,
Yeah,
anyway,
you try.
I did. So we would do that, and so this is when I first started to understand mental health, but didn't actually know like mental health. Like I just knew that there's something beautiful that happens when we have self acceptance and we work towards, you know, um, accepting ourselves. And so I would do that and have these events.
Yeah.
And then I had my own mental health decline. And from then, that's when I was like, wait, what is going on? What is mental health? And I became an instructor.
Dope. That's dope. That's dope.
Also, too, really quickly, shout out to my community because my community raised money for me to become an instructor. So I always like to say that when I talk about being an instructor. But that's how I learned about it. And so through the mental health first aid classes and being an instructor, I just became better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do adult and children.
I do adult,
yeah.
youth, and train the trainer. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. For me, mental health, you know, growing up in New York, we see mental health, right? So what's funny, well, it's not funny, but when we were younger, I used to see a lot of people on like substance use and have mental health issues, that lived in like certain little projects and stuff that may have been near my house. I didn't grow up in the projects, but near my house. Um, and we used to have nicknames for them. Like it was this one lady, we called her Floating Mona. And it was like I don't know what drug she was off of,
Yeah.
but she used to like follow us sometimes.
Mm.
She was a real nice lady.
Yeah.
But you looking back now, like knowing what I know now, like she was high.
Yeah.
Off something, like she zooted out of her mind.
But I didn't know that was a mental health thing.
Right. I didn't, yeah. So, I mean, I didn't really start knowing about mental health until about 2013. Like after college.
Yeah.
Pretty
That's
much.
crazy though when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like it's a part of who we are from birth.
Right.
And yet the both of us are saying that we didn't hear about it till we were after our 20s or 30s. Right. That's wild to me. That is not being talked about.
Yeah.
Enough.
You know what's crazy? So I seen a post the other day and it said about 6 million males across the world struggle in silence from mental health.
Yeah.
You know. What I find interesting though, I do think that we're kind of changing the stats on African American males in particular, seeking therapy and seeking help and talking a little bit more about their feelings. But obviously, we got a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
Right. But with changing the stats, I think it's becoming more popular because we're seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, so before we wasn't seeing people talk about mental health or people talking about going to therapy, people talking about on social media, oh, I'm feeling like this, I'm going through this issue, I'm having a hard time with this. And now we see it almost every day.
Yeah.
Multiple times throughout the day.
But do you think you're seeing it because of who you like, what you do? Because I feel that same way, but then I realized that my entire majority of my community are in the well-being space.
Yeah. No, I don't think, no, because I like to watch ratchet stuff on my social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have a good balance of like, okay, I'm following this person that's influential, and then I'm following some BS on social media.
Yeah.
But the regular person may not see it in the eye of like, oh, this person has some mental health going on. Like, say, for instance, if you're on a Shade Room and Shade Room is posting, you know, somebody...
Kodak Black?
Yeah. Kanye West going on rants, right? Yeah. Now, Kanye has been open about he's bipolar.
Yeah.
But say if Kanye never was open about him being bipolar, he just was going on rants on Twitter.
Yeah.
People would just be like, oh, it's Kanye crazy. Like, he just acting crazy.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily relating it to, oh, he has a mental health issue. You know, so now that we know, yeah, people look at it differently. But, yeah, I think it's still more awareness around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why do you think people don't talk openly about mental health?
Don't talk openly about mental health because people don't want to talk about themselves. That's why. I mean, so we always talk about like the trust factor, safety factor.
Yeah.
People don't feel safe. A lot of people with mental health issues, they have mental health issues because it was a trigger. It was a catalyst that started it, right? So it could have been a person, it could have been a place, it could have been a thing that you were engaged in, etc. So now if you surround yourself around people that may remind you of this trigger, of course you're not going to open up to those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
or even with it, and sometimes we think that we should open up. People may think that, oh, it's cool to open up to your close friends and all of that stuff, but um your friends could potentially be a trigger to
Mm-hmm.
you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you may have, this deep love and connection with them, but their actions or some things that they may say may not align with your purpose, your values, and also be a trigger into your mental health.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be a lot different.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I people don't feel comfortable opening up around their mental health out of fear of like s- being treated differently or not being trusted or just to me it's all around treatment that people have an issue with sharing either their past stories about mental health or their current stories about mental health, because oftentimes when people disclose a diagnosis, or not oftentimes but sometimes when people disclose a diagnosis, now I have to be concerned with how you're going to treat me now that you know this diagnosis. Even when I do the trainings in the workplaces, if someone decides to self disclose, now I have to be concerned with whether or not I'm going to get my promotion or not. Now I'm going to be, now I'm going to have to worry about if it's going to be an issue with like how I'm being treated by my partner, right?
yeah, I think on the other end too, some people use these diagnoses as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
But
oh,
see, that's the
and
part
I
right
think
there.
that's why people sometimes have a hard time deciphering between the two. That's the biggest struggle, because it's like once somebody abused something, it's no longer, it's a lack of trust within it.
But
Right?
who
So
determines it was a level of abuse in that? Like if I share with you that I struggle with depression,
mhm.
right? Who are you to determine whether I'm telling the truth about that or not? And that's where that lack of trust happens, I think.
Yeah, no, so I agree with that, but also I think that people, when I say use it as a crutch,
Yeah.
like for somebody that may struggle with anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not everything, well, generalized anxiety is general, so anything, everything could make you
Mm-hmm.
anxious, right? But what's happening is that people are self-diagnosing,
Okay.
right? So they're like, "Oh, I have anxiety."
Mm-hmm.
How do you know you have anxiety?
Yeah.
And you may, experience some of the symptoms. You may feel like, "Oh, my heart rate is increasing," or "I have them feelings in my stomach," or "I'm getting a headache," and noticing different signs in your body, etc. But if you didn't go and seek out the consultation and
Yeah.
treatment to see, what you're actually struggling with,
Yeah.
that's where the misconception comes in.
Yeah.
Because now you're using these terms and you're not using them properly, and you
Mhm.
don't really even know.
Yeah.
We all feel anxious at
Mm-hmm.
some point in time. Like I don't like speaking in public sometimes.
Yeah.
So I may have a little anxiety
Yeah.
moment, but I don't have anxiety.
Yeah.
That's just that moment that makes me feel anxious.
It's interesting because like I often struggle with the signs and symptoms of mental health challenges because some of these signs and symptoms look very much like typical human behavior, right?
Yeah.
Like the example that you used, if I go and I speak, I might be a little bit nervous, right? So that's typical behavior. So there are some like pros to the fact that people are starting to see what these signs and symptoms are and that they can go online and get a better understanding on what it may be. But to your point, it's important for folks to also know that you need to go to a professional to be able to get diagnosed.
Right.
And that's that. So how do you think, or what do you think, how stigma is played a part? You talked about like we're changing and the conversation around mental health is changing, but do you think that there's still that stigma there?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of mental health stigmas.
Mm-hmm.
Stigma that you have to be crazy or something severe has to be going on for you to go to therapy.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest misconceptions
Mm-hmm.
about therapy, because therapy doesn't, you don't have to go to therapy because you have an issue.
Right.
Right? You could just really want to go just because, like, hey, I want somebody to bounce ideas off of. I need a support person. I have nobody else to talk to about this specific thing. I may not find that as an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be affecting my personal life, but I just need that support. So I want to go to therapy.
Yeah.
To have that support. and you have people on the other end that actually have, maybe some severe or moderate issues that's going on that they need to tackle
Yeah.
during therapy. Um, I think another big misconception is that people think that you can't recover from mental health,
I know. Yeah.
right? So it's like, oh, okay, something happened and I'm depressed today, and now it's like 5 years from now, oh yes, that's enough to be depressed.
Hmm.
No, I was depressed in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I may have had an episodic
Yeah.
depression come on. And a lot of times people stamp that diagnosis on individuals. It happens a lot of times with kids. I work with children, and children may be diagnosed with like conduct disorder or something. And immediately when they get that conduct disorder, most clinicians are thinking, oh yeah, later on in life, this kid potentially can have, uh, uh, bipolar or maybe have some type of antisocial disorder.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily true. If they're treated right and you're
Yeah.
able to manage the symptoms, de-escalate some of the problem behaviors that they're experiencing.
Yeah, I remember this one time I went to therapy. I've been to several different therapists over my lifetime because of moving or transitions. And I remember going to this particular therapist, and I was like to her, I was like, I I probably maybe we're like 2 sessions in. And I was like, so what I got? What's my diagnosis? And she was like, we just started talking and I don't know. One, it could just be your reaction to what you're going through right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have a diagnosis. And oftentimes, not often, but sometimes certain therapists, they're very quick to diagnose.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, we have to. I mean,
To get billed.
Yeah, so it has to be a diagnosis. However, we can diagnose unspecified disorders, right? So you may come in with an issue and you may show some type of sadness, and you may show like, oh, okay, some type of withdrawal from um, having social isolation from people. Now, that's not enough to say, oh, you have major depressive disorder.
Right.
But throughout my conversation, if I feel like I don't have enough of the characteristics of that disorder, I may give an unspecified depressive disorder.
Got you.
And what that means is that, hey, I'm giving you unspecified because as I work with you, I'm going to identify more information about what's going on, identify more information about your mood, your emotions, to see if another diagnosis sticks.
Okay.
Right? So we have to also write clinical impressions. So when we write clinical impressions, that's us basically giving our feedback on what was reported to us and giving our recommendations on what is needed for you. These damn gnats. So what's going on? It's like a gnat fest going on. But all right. Yeah, so
Sorry, y'all.
so yeah, the clinical impressions is important too. So typically when you go into therapy or get any type of assessment, whether it's a psychiatrist, psychologist, they do this comprehensive assessment, and everything within that assessment is reported by you.
Yeah.
Now they can gather information from other assessments with release forms, etc. And that clinical impressions, that's all therapists.
Yeah.
Like, based off everything that was reported by you, this is my synopsis of the issue, and this is what I believe should go on as far as recommendation.
Okay, got it. I don't know where I was going with that question, but I really appreciate it because I do think sometimes people feel like they are, they don't know what to expect when you go to therapy, right? And I don't want to be diagnosed too quickly. And so, what do you think people should expect when they start therapy?
I mean, so when you start therapy, the first expectation you should have is you should have all the expectations for yourself. And I say that because you should go into that office and be ready to be honest, tell the truth, and everything that's uncomfortable that you don't want to share with no one else. Just know that this is the place that them little secrets, they gotta come out. In order for you to get the help that you need. If that's what you're going to therapy for. I mean, you could expect your therapist to not give you answers,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't give answers. We help you find solutions to your issues,
See, I don't like
right?
that about therapy
So,
sometimes.
but this is the thing. If we sat there and we gave you the answers to your problems and you went ahead and did it and it didn't work out, then guess what? Who you blaming?
You.
Exactly.
I'm blaming you anyway. No, but
So,
I hear that makes sense.
you're gonna blame that therapist, right?
That makes sense.
And now, I mean, depending on what it is, it could be something super severe that you went out
No,
and
that's
did,
true. That's
and
true.
now that's a malpractice suit.
I never even thought about that. So thank you so much for saying that, because a lot of times, like my friends and I will be like, they just want me to talk, 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 talk. But I do
Yeah.
think that there is, like, my therapist now, that's my girl.
Mm.
Like, I really like her. I'm so glad I found her. And there'll be moments like in session where I will stop and just pray for her. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so happy we're here right now. And I'll just break out in a prayer. And I speak a lot of affirmations to her because she's great in guiding me, but also teaching me. And
Yeah.
so, yes, she lets me, or she makes space for me to make my own decisions. But it's like, if I'm stuck in this area, she'll say, well, here's an activity so you can continue to explore this. Or here's a sentence starter so that you can at least begin to practice starting that particular conversation. And a lot of therapists, and this is not a therapy attack, y'all, but I know that a lot of therapists just don't show up in that way. And sometimes it feels wasteful for people to go into treatment, or they feel like they're not getting anything out of it because of their therapist.
When you say don't show up in that way,
like, they're not giving you, some people, they're just like listening.
Okay.
My last therapist, all she did was listen. I was like, this, first of all, she listened and she would never laugh at my jokes. And I'm funny. And I was like, this can't be the person that I got to be talking to forever, because you don't even be laughing. She was always so serious.
Yeah.
And she didn't give me any type of like practices that I can put into place.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, this ain't working.
Yeah.
And I dumped her and went and found me another person.
I mean, and that's okay though.
Yeah.
That's everybody that you go to therapy for, you're not gonna match with. So I think it's okay to therapy shop, right?
Yeah.
So okay, these 2, 3, 4 sessions didn't work out, I'm gonna go somewhere else. But you have to ask yourself, and I think that other people have to ask themselves, when you go into that therapy appointment, are you looking for the therapist to give you the answer?
Because that's not what they're gonna do.
That's not what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, we process things with you all. We're gonna teach you coping skills. We're gonna work through problems together. But there's a bunch of different therapeutic philosophies that people go by too.
Yeah.
So it depends too. It's important that when you do go to therapy, that you ask your therapist, like, oh, what's your therapeutic approach? You know,
that's a good one, y'all. Write that down.
Yeah. What's your therapeutic approach? Like, how do you typically counsel your clients?
Yeah.
You know, so are you more solution focused? Are you gonna be somebody that's narrative therapy? Are you client centered? Are you going based off what I say, etc.? So that can help you understand, and ask them what that means, right?
Yeah.
But it can help you understand, like, okay, this is the type of relationship that I'm going into. Is this a relationship that I want to be in?
Yeah.
Or am I looking for something else? And have them, if they can, have them explain to you, like, oh, what are some other different type of techniques, etc. Or therapeutic approaches, I should say, that therapists have, so that you can understand, have the knowledge to try to identify based off the issues that you have, what kind of therapist you want.
Yeah. I feel like we know the impact. Thank you so much for giving those tips. I hope y'all wrote them down, because honestly, when you go to your therapist for the first time, you may want to think about, like, when you go on like a date, right? What are the questions that you're going to have, that you're going to ask? So when we think about, like, the impacts of culture and religion, how can culture impact the way we view therapy and healing?
Oh, I mean, we have a bunch of different cultures, right?
Yeah.
So, have the Asian culture, we have the Hispanic culture, African American culture, etc. We all culturally do different things, right? So, for instance, I know the Filipino culture, women don't look into men's eyes, right? So if I had a female Filipino client she's not gonna look at me, right?
Would she go to you though?
She probably won't go to me.
Okay.
But say if she did go to me.
Yeah.
I mean, she might want
Yeah.
to, right? But say if she did go to me, she may, if she grew up culturally right for her culture, she may struggle with eye contact, right? Most therapists, when we work with our clients, we pick up on things such as body language, right? So if somebody lacking eye contact or jittery, etc., that may insinuate something based off of whatever conversation that we may be having, right? But when you think about culture, that's culturally appropriate for us,
Yeah.
right? So as a therapist, you have to know like what things are acceptable in different cultures and what are the values that cultures have when you work with clients that's not of the same culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. What does it mean to be strong? And how does it hurt or help?
So what does it mean to be strong and how does it heal?
How does it help or hurt?
Are you asking what do I like
Yeah,
me
you.
personally? Oh,
Doc T, what do you think?
so initially when you asked me that, I'm thinking, well, being strong means it's different for each individual, right? For me, being strong is about um one my mental, right? My brain.
Yeah.
Having a healthy brain. I feel like that's the most powerful tool that we have as human beings. If we lose our mind, everything else is clipped. Everything. Like we have nothing else if we lose our mind. So being strong is having a healthy brain, and healthy mind and being able to make clear decisions.
Yeah.
And problem solve and know how to react and not react to situations. Um, being strong is communicating, being supportive.
But you know when like people say when we did our women's episode and one of the guests had mentioned like this idea of a strong black woman. Do you think if in strong black men, do you think that just hurts us? Like when we need to show up in vulnerable spaces, when our mental health possibly is in decline?
Yeah.
Because you said that clip you saw, it said 6 million men are experiencing depression.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm assuming they're saying it's undiagnosed or like they don't even know they're having it.
So the post wasn't very
clear.
Yeah, but it just said it gave that number.
Because sometimes people don't know when they're having these symptoms. And what are some symptoms when it comes to depression?
Depression. Oh. So depression, isolating yourself. So typically to be diagnosed clinically with depression, you have to experience these symptoms that I'm about to list for 2 weeks.
Consistent.
Yeah, within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So feeling hopeless, worthless, sad, crying spells, withdrawing from activities that you love to do, isolating from people, changes in your eating habit, changes in your sleeping regimen. You may have suicidal thoughts. You may experience some type of psychomotor agitation. So that could be like constantly tapping or chewing your nails, stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah. And it shows up for men and women differently?
It shows up for everybody differently because everybody doesn't have all the symptoms, right? So it really depends. Sometimes it can be combined with anxiety, or sometimes it can be combined with paranoia and psychosis. So it just really depends on that individual, what they're going through, and the other symptoms that they have related to it.
Despite rising societal stressors, it's possible to take care of your well-being. Levels Mental Health provides compassionate care for those experiencing mental health challenges. Our holistic approach addresses anxiety, depression, behavior issues, and trauma, ensuring individuals feel understood. It's time for accessible mental health services for all. Visit levelsmentalhealth.com to learn more, schedule a consultation, or donate to expand outreach and support our community.
In the class that I teach, a lot of times I go through signs and symptoms and really help people identify when they are experiencing mental health challenges and then how to respond to those things. And oftentimes people find struggle with like identifying and then doing something about it if someone in their family is having challenges as well. So I think it's important for us to know what those signs and symptoms are, because what I found to be really alarming is that on average it takes people almost 10 years from the time that they have a mental health challenge to the time that they get connected to care. And it's
Yeah.
so much, and that depends on the diagnosis. Like people living with OCD, it is actually longer than that,
But
right?
also the resources.
Yeah,
You know,
for
like
sure.
people, one a big um issue that a lot of kids have is eating disorders, right? So like in Virginia, I think it's maybe like maybe one or two eating disorder places.
Mm.
Like there's nothing around here in this
Mm.
area. You know, so those kids that struggle with eating disorders, I mean, they may not one have the money for it, or two just don't have the accessibility to get there.
Yeah.
You know, and accessibility is one of the biggest things we see now. You know, Trump, they're cutting food stamps,
I
Medicaid.
know.
I just seen here in Richmond, so like everybody on Medicaid, they get free bus rides.
Yeah.
So GRTC is now in talks of cutting it. Well, it's not GRTC, but it's all the political stuff that's going on. But cutting that, and that's something that's going to be huge because a lot of the clients rely on, you know, the bus for transportation. They don't have cars, they don't have licenses. You know, they have health issues, can't walk with canes,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, and the bus is a reliable resource for them.
Right.
So,
Right.
we're gonna definitely see a shift and change within mental health this year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Super increase. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be increased and it's gonna be less funding and less resources.
Yeah.
So that's gonna even be more of a problem
Mm-hmm.
because prior to this year, they have been throwing a lot of money into mental health. They have been throwing a lot of money into substance use, and now they're about to take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's something that you're still learning about yourself? It's a personal question.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's something you still learning about yourself?
I'm assuming when it comes to mental health.
When it comes to your mental health, mental
Yeah.
well-being.
Oh my gosh, that I can be seen and loved deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like that I can yeah, that you can be seen and loved. That's one thing that I'm learning, and I'm like more so paying attention to the actions that contribute to that narrative instead of the other narrative that and like I had somebody call me yesterday and we're on the phone or whatever, and it's somebody I used to talk to, and you know, obviously we don't talk no more, but he's sharing just how much he valued me in that moment or whatever. And that's something that I'm learning, that, you know, it doesn't, before I used to think like, you know, I did something wrong. I used to have this whole thing like I did something wrong or I could have done something better or whatever it is. But it's just like knowing that I can be my full self, and sometimes I can be a lie.
Yeah.
And I can still be very much still well loved and cared for.
You can.
I know.
That's wonderful.
What about you? Is it
What's something I'm learning about myself?
Yeah.
I feel like I mean, I'm not really learning anything about myself.
I knew you were gonna say that. That's why I didn't want to ask you the question. You like, I already
No,
know everything
for
that I need to know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, there's things that I want to change.
what?
I want to
With
be
your
more.
mental-
Well, as far as my mentally, I'm good. Mentally,
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah. But so when I think of mental health, I don't just think of diagnosis, right?
yeah.
So I think of my life, like
Yeah.
how I carry myself in all aspects of life and my
Yeah.
well-being.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like, I think I be getting irritated too quick. I need to calm down. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I could work on. Out of that, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I would be perfect. Don't you think?
Tune in for episode 11. Greg's perfection. No, but I think, you know, I think that's one of the things that I'm learning. But also too, like, that it's okay to just like just be who you are and not hide parts of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like I'm grateful though for those connections where I can be my most professional self. I can be very silly. I can be, a little bit more different. I don't want to say it on the podcast, but I can do these things, right? And so what I'm learning is that I don't have to be one way. I don't have to stay in a box,
Yeah.
and that feels good to me.
How do you advocate for yourself
How
today?
Yeah, how I advocate for myself is
Yep.
I say things now.
Okay.
I try to have conversations around and try to do it quickly when I feel like something or someone, it doesn't feel good to me. I try to say something.
Mm.
But another way that I advocate for myself, the thing that I have been practicing too lately is trying to determine if this is you or me.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is like, is this a trauma response? And then, you know, is there something that I can change? Is there a mindset shift that I can make? Because I can't control another person in my advocacy. Um, and so I do that. But also what has been incredibly helpful to me, is if when I advocate for myself, how I'm received tells me all that I need to know about the connection too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm not afraid to advocate for myself because I'm not afraid if I say something and somebody's like, "Yo, that don't work for me," and or something doesn't work for me, or if a project doesn't go through. I'm like, I'm going to advocate for myself. Somebody asked me to do a speaking engagement. I told them my price.
Yeah.
Yo, I told them my price, and like I don't know whether they're going to take it or not, but that's me advocating for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you see mental health in the next 5 years? Like, what do you think that's gonna look like, and how do you think that is gonna impact people?
Yeah, I think the mental health resources are going to shift. I think we are going to start looking for alternatives to traditional therapy. I feel like even therapists are looking for alternative to traditional practice.
Yeah.
And so I think in the next 5 years, probably 10 years, there's going to be resources that make connection more relatable.
Yeah.
We're going to see an increase in peer support services like we've never seen before because peer support is a lot easier to obtain than a therapist, your degree, your doctor in psychology, whatever it is. It's harder to get your license as a mental health professional than it
Yeah.
is to become a peer specialist.
The hard thing with that, I'm sorry to cut you off, is that what I find is a lot of individuals who want to be peer support specialists, they have criminal charges, right? So like they can go through the class, get a certificate, congratulations,
But they can't get
but
hired.
the state requires you to go through a state exam, right? And they won't let you take that state exam based off of certain charges that you have.
Really? I didn't know that.
So
That sounds dumb to me.
it does sound dumb because it's kind of like messing up the whole model.
All right,
Care
like
recovery.
that
It shouldn't really matter what their charge is at that time, because if they have showed that, hey, I'm
at
paying
further on in
sobriety,
my journey.
I'm not having any more legal issues. Like, they need
or
to
a
identify.
time, a limitation or something.
They need to
Wow.
identify
I didn't know that.
a better
Process.
rubric
Yeah,
on how they allow people to be peer recovery specialists.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel two ways about it. But I think peer recovery support is important, and I think it's really good. But I also think that it's risky.
Oh, of course.
It's a lot of risk that traditional therapy doesn't have.
And that's probably why they have these stronger limitations on it. But when I think about it, I just more so think about access. The last time I checked, I can't remember when it was, but there's about 36 therapists to every 100,000 person. It's just not enough.
Right.
And when you think about the fact that we have had such an impact in the mental health industry and how deeply people are struggling with their mental health, we need more people. And then on top of that, now I'm about to go on a rant. And then on top of that, a lot of the therapists are no longer doing in-person treatments, and many of them are doing virtual. And then on top of that, a lot of them are moving to self-pay. Right. And so now I pay my therapist $200 a session. And at one point I was doing it every week, and now I do it bi-weekly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
So I want to give, my feedback being on the other side.
Because two sides of the couch.
Because there are a lot of therapists that go to self-pay or, would prefer more self-pay clients than insurance clients. One, it's not that easy to get into insurance.
I know.
So, and even when you get into insurance, there's so many stipulations and things that you can do. Mm-hmm. Billing, people don't get paid on time. People don't get paid, and the insurance could, decline these payments. So with that, it's safer for therapists to go through just self-pay clients. And we understand that all clients can't afford, certain fees. And that's why a lot of therapists do have sliding fee scales to meet their clients where they're at. But some people just want a certain clientele too.
Yeah, for sure.
Therapy is a lot. It's a lot on a therapist.
I couldn't do it.
So I know some people that have like 30 clients, and I'm like, I would never have 30 individual cases. Mm-hmm. That is, you got to sit there and be that focused for 30 hours during the week. Yeah. That give you 10, depending on when their appointments are, because it could be bi-weekly, monthly, etc. But that's still a lot of time invested into someone else.
It is.
That I honestly don't, I don't have it in me to have that many clients. Yeah. Because we're not supposed to take stuff home, but we're also human. So a lot of people do take stuff home. Yeah. And then depending on the different type of techniques and treatment modalities that they're using, like when I did EMDR, getting my certification. Now I haven't done EMDR on any client yet.
Oh, do it on me.
No. Okay. You can't be my client. But no, I haven't done it on a client yet because I'm still getting my consultation hours. Oh, okay. But when we had to practice the technique in groups and we had partners.
Did somebody tried it on you?
Yeah. Okay. Somebody tried it on me. I did it on someone else. Yeah. And the person I did it on, was super emotional, like really going through it. And it was supposed to be practice. And I'm like, you're not supposed to be carrying this like in a real therapy session. Yeah. Like, this is practice. Right. But she was carrying it. But I let her go. But when I tell you I was super drained after, first of all, it was an 8-hour training. Yeah. Sitting there in the classroom eating muffins. Yeah. I'm like, yo, ready to go. Need a margarita. But
replace the muffin for a margarita.
Outside of that, when I went home, like when I went back to the Airbnb, I was literally having not nightmares, but dreams about EMDR, like how to do the technique, how to do this. And I'm like, yo, it was like for 3 days in a row. Like I was going from the training, and I'm not a nap person, from the training, going to the Airbnb, falling asleep on the couch, knocked out, exhausted, tired.
When I used to be in EMDR treatment, I remember calling my therapist like, I'm about to quit. She was like, because my Saturdays were done. I would go to her Saturday morning and then go to the market and then come to the house and go to sleep for the rest of the day. I was like, I'm about to quit. It was so heavy. It took so much emotion out of you. It was incredibly draining, but it was the most transformative treatment I ever had. So I get that. Like, you're just like, so I can't even imagine if I was the one having to sit and receive that.
Yeah. So it's a lot of things. Hopefully we get it right. As when you talked about different treatment methods, I definitely do see that happening. Some state, like I think California, they use psychedelics. So I think I've researched it, and I also I did some research on that, and I honestly think that it would be beneficial.
I love the idea of
with trauma clients.
Yeah, so there's a practice with it. There's actually the first psychedelic the first psychedelic company was listed in the stock market a couple years ago. And so when that first happened, there was a lot of conversations. I could tell you the ticker later, but there was a lot of conversations around like this being a new advancement in medicine, especially for people who struggle with depression.
Yeah.
And their type of depression has not been able to, like, medicine resistant. They've been talking about that.
Yeah.
But you have any last words for the people?
Oh, you just gonna cut us off like that? Damn, I had another question. Nah, I just went. But yeah, no, I mean, therapy, mental health. It's important to make sure that we're practicing healthy well-being.
Yeah.
On all aspects of life, all areas, whether it's social, whether it's financial, work. All these different domains of life matter, and they all combine and make up our mental health. It's important that we're attending to each one. Just know your friends, they're not your counselors. They're not therapists. Your friends, one thing about them friends is gonna they may give you good advice, but they never take their advice. So it's like, why would you go?
Well, therapists don't be taking their advice.
Well, you don't know that.
True, I don't know.
You don't know that, but you see when your friend tell you, "Oh, girl, don't go back to him, X, Y, Z," and then she over there going back to him. Going back to him.
Yeah.
Well, like I could see what you're doing. Your therapist, all you can do is make assumptions.
That's
you don't know
true.
what they know.
That's so true.
But yeah, it's not, therapy is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you have it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It don't mean that you have an issue.
Right.
You would just really just go just to chill out. It's like being in a barbershop chair. Seriously. But one thing, as we talking about barbershop chair, it's in Philadelphia. It's this group of guys. They work with kids, but they also develop this program within the barbershop.
That's so dope.
Yeah, so they do like different therapeutic approaches in the barbershop, because barbershop is therapeutic. And I'm sure like you getting braids, sitting in a chair for 5-6 hours, y'all talk. You have no.
We are not
choice.
Talking.
Because I used to go to
the type of braiders that it is.
Oh, okay. Well, so I used to go to the braiding shop with my mom. So I used to hate going to braiding shop when my mom took me, because she would be in there for 7-8 hours taking my Saturday up.
Whole Saturday.
Only thing that I liked about it was that I always got Chinese food. New York Chinese food.
Yeah,
so yeah, we would. But when I tell you, they used to be chatting in the braid shop. When I go to the bar
hair
shop,
salon, yeah, but not the braid shop.
Well, she went to the Africans. They was chatting.
They don't be talking. They be talking.
But my mom's a talker too, so it may be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But in a barbershop, some barbers be quiet. They cut your hair. I'm the type of person, I want to get in a chair and close my eyes and just let you do your thing. My head is not all that. Don't zeke me. Some people,
they be talking.
You get in that chair and
because they don't have anybody else to talk to sometimes too. Like in their space,
But my current barber, my barber would actually be a good. I think he would be a good therapist for like he asks us really good questions, and it's not like nosy questions. He just really start conversation. When you in the chair, and like. He's just intrigued, like he always want to learn and all that other stuff. But he has a dope conversation. My old barber too, he was a talker. So what was funny, the first couple of times when I was going to him, he was kind of rude. I felt like, and I'm like, I'm about to find another barber. I ain't feeling his energy. And then one day he had asked me what I do, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm a therapist, blah blah blah." And he took that opportunity
to give it.
Goddamn, did 8 miles. I was like, if you don't shut the hell up, I'm trying to get my. But he took that opportunity, and it was like, yo, when I left out of that chair, I knew so much about him, but it was also a safe space.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about men, and women, like whatever, it's things that we don't engage in together, right? So like, there's men that there's men that get braids, that get their hair braided, right? But how many men are you in a shop with?
Not a lot. Zero most of the time.
Right. So what I'm saying is that those spaces that like women are majority at, it's more of a safe space for women to engage in conversation and vice versa for men. It's more of a safe space for them to engage in conversation. I think it is a big opportunity out there for therapists and other mental health professionals to connect to those markets to get those people, whether we develop, you know, some type of support group or even able to, you know, pick up clientele out of these careers. You know, so like the beauticians, hairstylists, all that stuff. Nail salon.
No,
like
really.
they're people when they go through it. You know, and they a lot of times are the people that don't have the finances for therapy, right? But if you create a
safe group, they're able to talk it. They're able to have those conversations.
And the support groups can be cheaper for an individual than individual. So
I actually like that. I think that would be a cool idea too. If people had group therapy in barbershops, like everybody's time was around whatever their struggle was, and you were able to also have that conversation and get that reminder that you're not alone either. Yeah, I like that. Good idea. I hope somebody listening to that.
Yeah, you know, and if you're listening, I need 10%, so just hit me up.
Yeah, you're always trying to take this 10%.
Nah, I just went. But yeah, y'all see my hoodie? So I got this at InvestFest. It says "Listen to the kids." What the back say?
Adults must be stopped.
Oh yeah. So the guy that I met at InvestFest, he was young. So I went to InvestFest 2 years ago. He may have been in his 20s. Real upbeat personality, gave like hippie vibes a little bit. Probably mixed. And I had walked past his booth. I'm walking through booths or whatever. I had walked past his booth, and I really liked his hoodies. So I'm just standing there, and I'm like, don't want to pay $100 for this hoodie or whatever. So then he just started talking, and I liked his personality or whatever. So he was just saying how he was talking about like being a kid and like going through abuse and all this other stuff. So and this is why he made the brand, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna support your brand.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
So, yeah. But I know we were supposed to close out, y'all, because we'll get to chatting. Again, thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you.
Of course, mental health is, you know, if anybody want to be on a segment, they want to share their story, they want to talk about mental health, they want to whatever, chop it up about anything, just let us know. Definitely let us know. And on our Instagram bio, there's a link to a Google form, so you can submit if you want to be on a podcast, as well as you can get to our YouTube channel and our TikTok and everything from our bio too. But yeah, make sure that y'all follow us, make sure you hit us up, and we appreciate y'all.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.